welcome to KPM TV. I am Dr. John Ogbuehi here to take the health talk for today. And in this session, we'll be talking about very salient matters that concerns both new and intending couples. So if you have someone or you yourself are a new couple or you are intending to get married soon or later in future, well, this is something that will interest you because we'll be talking about a lot of health tips that can help you as an individual, whether you are male or you are female, to learn and to also help you enjoy both your singlehood and when you eventually get married, the activities that has to do with your health even in marriage. So stay tuned as we jump into the matters to be discussed after this break. Welcome back. I hope you've gotten your jotters. I hope you've gotten your pens ready. I hope you've called your friends. Before we go on, I also want you to share this video to as many friends as possible, your colleagues, your workmates, and all those guys that you know need this information we're about to share. Health is wealth. So whatever you're doing, it's important that you know what to set priorities at. Usually when people are about to get married, what they pursue is money for bride price, traditional wedding, church wedding, and all sorts, forgetting what is actually more important: a healthy person. The first person you want to marry is a healthy person. The first thing you should check in the person you want to marry is the person's health, not the person's beauty. Some people are beautiful but they are carrying a lot of diseases. Some people have money, they have front and they have back, like you all know, but they are having a lot of diseases. Some people are rich, wealthy. Some men, they have six packs, they have chest, they are well built, but they have diseases that you don't know. And like they say, not all diseases show on the face. So it's very important, because if you marry such a person with such diseases without knowing, you are in for it. You are in big trouble, and you will have to actually stay in that marriage for as long as the case may be, especially if the person did not open up to you before you sealed the deal. So it's a very important thing. Don't think that whenever we are talking about health tips, or as we are doing right now, that it doesn't concern you. It's very important to know the possibilities in this person. So how are we going to do it now? We are going to go first with the intending couples before we then graduate into those people who have actually gotten married and are new couples. So once again, we are talking about health tips for new and intending couples, and this is KPM TV Health Talk. Now, first on the list for the intending couples, it is very important as an intending couple for you to know the health status of your spouse or spouse to be. It's very, very important for you to know. By the time you are asking for their names, their village, their state, the next thing you should start finding out is their genotype. Very, very important. You see, today we have a lot of people out there with with genotypes that are not pleasant. I wouldn't want to use a word that might be that might not be taken as seriously, or that could be taken as serious by one of them. But some genotypes are actually not pleasant and not good, because the cost, the pain of managing a sickle cell patient out there is actually very dangerous, and this was as a result of somebody not checking out for their health status. Sometimes they say love is blind, but if you have seen a sickle cell patient and their family, you will realize that love should not actually be blind in such cases. So don't be blinded by other things, forgetting what is actually important. Remember, like I said, the first thing you should check in someone you want to get married to is the person's health. The person's health. Somebody who is sick and in the hospital should not be thinking about marriage. Someone who is having a disease should first treat themselves before they actually get into the relationship or even into marriage, except if it's fine by the other party. Then it is clear that both of you know what you're doing. So like I said on the first list, the genotype of your spouse to be, the genotype of your fiancé or fiance, it's very important. And as we all know, the SS genotype is what we are trying to avoid, or the SC genotype. These are a family of diseases known as hemoglobinopathies, and it is very dangerous. It is not pleasant for you to have a child. It is not even suitable to have a child with such a pain. Imagine the pain you are going to put that child through if only you go ahead with such a marriage. So if your genotype is AS, you know that you cannot marry someone who is also AS, because 25% chance that every child you have is going to be SS, and that 25% is too much. That's like saying for every 100 um, children that might come, 25 of them or 25 of them are going to be SS. That's a lot already. So it's best you take your chances when you can still do that, and go for someone with AA genotype. And if you have an AA genotype, this may be a form of, on a lighter mood, try to marry off the people with AS, so that we can try to eradicate SS from our society. I don't know how you see that. If you have a comment about that, you can drop it in the comment section as well. Secondly, it's very important for us to know our HIV status before you get entangled with someone. HIV is still a disease out there. Although it's as if the noise for HIV has gone down, there's still a heavy campaign. It has not been eradicated. What we have been able to achieve so far is to control the virus with the use of antiretroviral drugs. In case you know someone who might have HIV out there, it's very important that you know that they can actually become what we call seronegative, because it will be as if they don't have the virus at all. When they go and check their viral load, it will be 0 counts, and that can actually help them to actually continue in any relationship without the fear of transferring the infection to their spouses. So it's very important for you to know that person's status, and also not just to break the relationship or to stop the marriage, but to help the person to be able to follow up with medications and follow up with hospital visits and medical reviews as frequently as possible, so that they can have a healthy life, you can have a healthy life, and both of you can have a healthy relationship. However, if you know that you are the sort that you cannot deal with such thing, it's better you know earlier than that you did not know. Some people out there, they won't want to share their HIV status, and that is a very red flag, a very red one, before you enter into such relationships. So it's very important that you open your eyes and make these findings. There are other findings that you can make, but what we are dealing with today is findings that has to do with the health tips for intending and new marriages. Now we are still talking about intending couples, and another thing to note is the blood group. Yes, genotype is not blood group. A lot of people confuse genotype for blood group. Some people think that genotype, when they ask for their genotype, they will say A, they will say O, they will say O plus and all that. Meanwhile, you are talking about blood group. In the genotype state, we have two alleles, two alphabets coming together as AS, AA. In the blood group, the only two alphabets will come together are A and B. So we have blood group A, blood group B, blood group AB, and blood group O. And it's important for you to know the blood group of your spouse and your own too. For all these things we are talking about, it's important for you to know that of yours and your spouse. So if you probably belong to a marriage counseling institution, maybe like a church, a mosque, or any other organization out there, they will want you to know your blood group, your genotype, before you even go ahead to do it. Why is it important for you to know your genotype? Because there's an aspect of the genotype that we call the resource factor. This resource factor is usually represented with the plus that is usually at the back of the blood group value that you have. So if it's A, they'll say A plus or O plus or AB plus. This plus represents the resource factor. Now what is important is when the mother is pregnant, that is after they have become married, and they are pregnant already, and they are about to deliver, it is important to know the resource factor of both you or your husband, because that can actually save the life of the baby. If the doctors are aware that okay, the father is resource positive and the mother is resource negative, there is a drug that can be given to the mother to avoid the death of subsequent pregnancies. So it's very important, don't take it for granted, to know the blood group of your spouse, both male and female, whether it is the general blood group of A, B, O and AB, or the resource factors associated with their blood group. Very, very important. The next thing I'll be talking about here is mental health. In this world, we have been talking about mental health awareness to create it for a lot of people. When it comes to marriage, it's important that you know the mental health of your spouse. A lot of people, different people have different mental health issues that are hidden. Some people, like I said, this thing doesn't show on the face. They will have the six packs, they will have the front, they will have the back, they will be beautiful, they will have the good hair and all sorts of things that we check out in a spouse. However, inside their mind, they have a lot of things going on. Some people have depression, some people are suicidal, some people have anxiety disorders, and you cannot tell until you trigger it. And if you trigger such a thing without knowing, you might have to be regretting it. So if they have if need be, it's a very important thing to note if they have any mental health issues or any mental history, so that you can be well aware of how to help them, how to manage them if you want to stay, and also how to run away if you realize that you cannot handle such a mental health issue. By the way, the mental health of anybody is not a reason for them not to go into a relationship. We encourage these people to have strong and well-meaning relationships, even people living with mental health issues, because they can be helped, they can be regular on their medications, they can actually, some of them can actually recover and form part of the society again and be very supportive. It just depends on the kind of support that they get. So we are not saying that people with mental health issues should not get entangled. We are saying is find out, ask questions, and know, communicate. Now a lot of people will want to hide their mental health issues because they feel that will turn them down. Well, if anybody runs away because you're having a mental health issue, well, maybe they are not for you. Just wait for God to bring the one that is yours. Another thing that is very important to look out for is the family history. But before we go ahead, I would like us to go for a short break and also to look through our jotters and check. If you have any questions, you can drop them so that we can follow through and answer your questions.
But you have to locate a space. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Great space now. Oh. More for fire. 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 More for fire.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Once again, this is Dr. John Ogbuehi on KPM TV, and we are talking about health tips for new and intending couples. Now, we started by talking about genotype. We also talked about blood group. We also talked about mental health issues, and we also talked about HIV status. These are very important aspects of premarital screening that needs to be done before you go ahead to get married and get entangled with anybody out there. We are about to talk about family history. Before we started, we went on a short break there. Now, in case you have not done this, please like this page, share it with as many friends and colleagues that you know that this concerns them, because we are talking about health here, and like we know, Health is wealth. Health is wealth, and good health is sense. Sometimes it requires you knowing some things. We know a common quote from the Bible that says that my people perish because they lack knowledge. Here we are sharing knowledge. We are sharing health knowledge that can help people and save a lot of lives. I believe that the right information saves more lives than the best surgeon in the whole world. If people knew the right thing, then more people can actually stay alive. That is to say that ignorance kills more than any disease in the world. So stay tuned as we continue on the things that should be known, the health tips that needs to be known before you get married, just before you say I do. Now, family history. Family history is very important, especially when it comes to the medical history. Some people have different family diseases that run in their family, and it will be very ignorant to join yourself to to a person without knowing the diseases that run in their family. It's very, very important, because it's very likely that those diseases will show up in your children. Yes, these are things that have been happening. Most genetic diseases have a higher likelihood of showing up in your children, whether the disease is from the father side or the mother side. If they have a disease, they are most likely to show up in the children. A good example of this are what we know as the albinos. Now, they are a set of beautiful people. They are well-meaning people and well-to-do. However, their condition is actually a genetic one. Now, because that one shows on the face sometimes, it's easy to say, okay, I knew about this before I entered into a relationship. However, there are some that does not show on the face. There are a lot of diseases that will not show on people's faces, and they will continue with such a relationship and lead into marriage, and then to show up in their children. I'll give you a good example. Number one is diabetes. Diabetes is actually a genetic disease. I hope you all know that diabetes is actually only triggered in people who already have the genes in them, in their family. And so if you already know that this person has a genetic trait for diabetes, you can easily help this person to live a longer and healthy life by ensuring that they are closer to their health practitioners, and do regular health reviews. It's very important. Like we said, these things are not for you to stop the relationship or to stop the marriage. They are for you to know and be aware before you put your head into such a thing. Number 6 that we are going to be talking about is very funny, but it's very important to know. Twinning history. A lot of people join themselves to people without knowing if they have a history of twins in their family. These days we have seen a situation where a father disappeared because his wife gave birth to twins 4 times, and that is already a disaster to him because he did not find out. On a lighter note, but that is a very important thing to note. Sometimes some people like twins and they just want to know, do you have twins in your family? Sometimes some people do not like twins, however they go ahead with such relationship without knowing. So it's very important to find out. Twinning runs in the family as well. In fact, we are lucky to have in Nigeria the city with the most twins in the world at Ogbuehi, Oyo State. So it's very important that you find out, because Nigeria has a high rate of twins, and wherever you are in the world, it's also very important to note, because it is very, very, very very key. Second to the last thing we will need to talk about on the matter of for those who are intending is when it comes to sexual counseling. Yes, some of us are actually illiterate, so to say, or ignorance when it comes to the act of copulation. Copulation means having sex or mating. Some of us have probably never done it for the sake of religion and Christianity and Islam that abhors having sex before marriage, and that is very good. However, some people who even have done it before go ahead without learning the right ways to actually carry out this important activity in marriage. We have had situations where a couple were having issues with infertility, and they presented themselves after 2 years of marriage, and the professor who was in charge then, after researching and checking everything, the wife was fine, there was nothing wrong with her womb or her fallopian tube, the husband was fine, their sperm and semen were all okay. The man went on to ask a very funny question: how do you people do it? And to our greatest surprise, they did not know how to do it. How can they be complaining of having not having conceived for a child without actually knowing where to put the right thing into the right hole? And this was a big issue. They had to be trained and taught, and in the next 1 year they were having their own babies. Now this is very important to learn, and this is why we have sex therapies, we have sexologists, we have psychosexual therapists around. Even there's an important aspect of psychiatry that has to do with this particular aspect of marriage, and they can help to help counsel even intending couples about it. Don't be deceived by what you watch on TV or in certain X-rated videos. That is not how it happens in marriage. That is not even a healthy way to have sex in marriage. It is very, very important to learn the right way. Most of those people are usually on narcotics, on drugs, and they don't even know what they are doing. So I beg, don't kill somebody's son or somebody's daughter with the demands of sex because you have a high expectation of it in marriage. It's very important to learn and be counseled, and to know that it's a gradual process so that you can actually enjoy yourself and stay long in such a relationship. Finally, I'll be talking about infections, sexually transmitted infections, or other infections that could be in this intending couple's body. There are a lot of other infections outside HIV and AIDS. There are also infections like hepatitis, infections like gonorrhea, infections like syphilis that might be lurking in these people's body. That's why it's important to do a complete screen to be sure what these people may have before you go in. You don't know their past life. They might have done a lot of things before they changed, and then they became who you met them as. But these infections will not leave them because they changed. So it's a very important thing for you not to be a victim of a circumstance that you did not know about. So as much as possible, shine your eyes, like we say, before you put your head into such relationships. Once again, I would like to remind us all that we have said all these things not to discourage you from going ahead with the person you have chosen for your heart, but for you to open your eyes and do the right things, the right medical checkup, the right premarital counseling, for sexual counseling, for family history, for genetic histories. All of these things need to be done and taken into note, so that when situations are showing up, you know how to manage them and you are ready for them. Remember, like we said, you need the first thing you need to check in the person you want to get married to is the person's health, the person's mental health, the person's sexual health, the person's family history. Very, very important. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be talking about some health tips that are very, very important even for the newly married couple. Stay tuned.
More for fire! 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 Oh yeah, for fire! More 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 for fire! Ìgbà tó ní ká lọ church. Ṣàdédé mo ní pa ọkọ yà ti start to dey praise the Lord. Kàtó wí kàtó fọ̀. Abáfẹ́ èdè fọ̀. Miracle ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní ìdásílẹ̀. Jọ̀pọ̀ ó pọ̀. More for fire. More for fire. Ó yá for fire. More for fire. More for fire.
Once again, I would like to thank you all for staying tuned all through the session where we were talking about the intending couples and those who, even if you are single and even if you don't have a spouse yet, it is very important for you to know those things. And we would like to recap some of those things we have talked about. We talked about HIV status, AIDS. We talked about genotype. We talked about blood group. We talked about mental health. We talked about family history. We talked about genetic diseases. We talked about twinning history, and we also talked about sexual counseling and infections, other infections. It's very important for you to know these things. You may not find this common knowledge in everywhere. No, we don't usually see them talking about these things on social media. So this is an opportunity to learn these things even before you put your head into it. Now we'll be talking to those people who have actually newly gotten married, and marriage is a very very important phase in the life of a young man and a young woman. They may think that they are, if no matter their age, once they go into marriage, that is a new thing for them. They have never been there before. Even if they've been there before, once you are marrying a new person, it's a new environment. Everyone has their environment. Once a man leaves his father and his mother and joins himself to a wife, it's a totally new environment. And as the environment changes, your health also faces a stimulus, an environmental stimulus. And the environmental change, just like when you travel from Lagos to London, for example, the cold there changes your body system. The weather, the water, everything changes, and that's exactly how marriage is. By the time you transition from the singlehood into marriage, even your health can actually be affected. And in this session of this talk show, this health talk show, we'll be talking about those pertinent issues that relates to health that can show up in a new marriage. And when I mean new marriage, I'm talking about from the very first week after marriage down to about maybe 2 years or 3 years into the marriage. So stay tuned as we go into this session.
Tony Carlos, Saturday morning, quiet to start to the president. Kato we got the four. I'm a baby for.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. John Ogbuehi, and this is KPM TV, and we've been talking about health tips for new and intending couples. And like we said, if you know that you're going to marry one day, this video is for you. This live stream is for you. This information is for you. Health is wealth. If you want to marry anybody, please, the first thing you should look at is the person's health. Very, very important. Now we've started talking about the tips for the married couple, and the first thing I want to highlight is what we call honeymoon cystitis. What is honeymoon cystitis? We all know that honeymoon is the period where the wife and the new wife and new husband goes to have fun, and within the first few weeks, in fact in the days of the Bible, they give them 1 year and they will have their fun, and the husband will not go to any war or go to any work. But these days, just within 2 weeks and they are back. Talking about life as it was before. So in this episode, we will be in this session, we're talking about honeymoon cystitis, because this is something that happens to a lot of females, especially while they are on their honeymoon. You realize that they get sick, they get a bit fuzzy, some health changes begin to happen. This is simply because they they got an exposure to certain pathogens in the act of copulation and having sex. Now, is it bad? No, it is not bad. It's a common phenomenon. However, it can be prevented, and that's why we are having this episode. Now, it depends on the female's immune system. Sometimes their immune system might be low because of the stress of the preparation for wedding and the wedding day and all that. Their immune system can be low, and within the first few weeks after marriage they come down with honeymoon cystitis. Sometimes it is because there's now especially for those who have probably not had sex before, those who are, so to say, virgins. They are having a foreign body, come in contact with their pubic region, and this alone can trigger an inflammation in their bladder. Right, the inflammation is not in the vagina, it is in the bladder, and because of this they might actually develop this cystitis. Sometimes it's also, that's thirdly, is also due to the inexperience of both the husband and the wife, and they can actually develop cystitis if they don't properly clean that area before they begin their activity, before and after, or if they don't properly empty their bladder before they carry out their copulative responsibilities. So this honeymoon cystitis is something that usually happens, but then it's possible to prevent it. And just like we mentioned the things that might cause it, we also know that those are the things that we have to note to prevent them. Number one, if you know that your immunity could have been low, you could have seen your medical doctor before you go on your honeymoon, so that they can give you some prophylactic antibiotics so that will not happen. Also, it's also advisable to maintain good hygiene down there, both for the husband and for the wife, before and after mating. More so, it's also very important for you to empty your bowels and not actually copulate with a full bladder, because that alone can trigger a lot of funny repercussions that I would not like to mention in this place. Now, having spoken about honeymoon cystitis, it's also very important for you to know that communication is key in a new sexual relationship, or a relationship that is actually going to lead to sex in marriage. It's very important that you communicate with your spouse. It's very important that you open up. You see, you are in a new terrain. When you go to a new place and you don't ask questions, you are going to lose big time. So if you enter into this kind of forever relationship, both of you need to open up. Bible says, and sorry to allude to the scriptures, that's what we have to share right now. The Bible says that it is that how do I say it again? Adam and Eve coexisted and they were not ashamed. So there's no place for shame. I've noticed a lot of couples who we get to see, they are ashamed of talking, especially about this sexual activity. Different people have different sexual orientations. Different people have different sexual ideas. Different people have different knowledge about sex because they did not grow up the same way. It's a very good platform for you to sit down together and say, what do you know about this? How do you know about this? This is what I know. This is how I do. This is what I think. This is how I think. This will be very easy to do, especially when you have sealed the deal already. It's easier to even do, because if you have not sealed the deal, then you cannot be talking about this alone. You will need a counselor to be to guide you at doing such a thing. However, now that both of you are together, it's best that you counsel, or you take counsel and communicate. Openness. So I would like us to actually encourage openness between the new husband and the new wife, so that you can know each other better, and your new marriage can actually continue. You may think that this is not a health issue, but a lot of people come to the hospital to say, doctor, I thought it was like this, it's not like that, and you like, you people did not talk, and then we have to be settling issues because they were thinking that something could have, that something was somehow they were thinking before. All right, I don't want to pour out so much on the show as at this moment. Now, we also know there's something trending on social media. I think I saw a a a tweet. Was it a tweet or an Instagram post of a lady who was complaining that she got married to someone who was impotent, and this is as a result of the fact that they never did it before marriage, which was actually a good thing. But then, because they never spoke, they never opened up, they never communicated before marriage, problem is now happening. Now she's complaining. Is she going to cut such a relationship, or is she going to endure till the end? Now let's move on to the next one. Family planning. Family planning is an important aspect to be discussed by a new couple. It's very, very important. Sometimes we see a wife who just go ahead and choose a particular kind of family planning without the discussion having taken place with her husband. It's very wrong, because different family plannings apply for different people, and there are different reasons why people choose different types. Every family planning out there has its own complication. Mind you, none is 100%, right? Except for the surgical ones that have higher tendencies of not failing. The best and the one that is 100% is abstinence, but we cannot continue to tell you about abstinence in a marital relationship. So it's very important for you to get proper counseling about family planning, discuss with one another, and then choose the one that you want. Some people, however, want to begin to have kids right after their marriage, and that's fine, totally fine. However, we also want to advise that you recover fully from the change of environment, that is from single to married, and also from the stress of marriage, before you begin to consider to have a child, because it can be very, very, very tedious. So it's better to plan your life, plan your family, have a proper spacing strategy between your children and your pregnancy. So there's something we call interpregnancy spacing and interbirth spacing. These things are very important for the well-being of the wife, the husband, and the children that are going to follow as well. So family planning is very important, and when you make plans, it's easier to follow them than by when life is just happening and you are taking it as it is coming. You may not take the next blow it's going to send. So it's better you prepare so you can dodge the danger that is unseen. Number 4 is counsel taking. Now, before I go on, I'd like us to take a very short break, and we'll come back and we'll discuss what it actually means to take counsel when it is needed. See you shortly. Welcome back. This is KPM TV, and we are talking about health tips required by both new and intending couples. We have discussed about the intending couples or single, what they should know before they get into the marital relationship, and now we are talking about what new couples need to know. And as new couples, we say between the from the day of marriage down to 3 years at least. In fact, you can even extend it down to 5 years, depending on the part of the world you are watching from. In case you missed out on the previous aspect of this particular broadcast, you can rewatch after. In fact, you can rewatch after we are done, and also join the discussion by commenting. And if you have questions, you can also drop questions for subsequent times. Now, it's very important to know these things because, like we said, it takes a healthy person to hold a healthy marriage. It takes two healthy people to hold a healthy marriage. Let me give you an instance of a married couple where one of them is actually sick. You know, that marriage is going to face a lot of turbulence, right? It is going to have a lot of issues, and this is why we are having this kind of discussion, so that you will know the conditions, you will know the risks, you will know the benefits, and you also know what to do whenever any health challenge comes up. This particular aspect of the broadcast, we were talking about what new couples should know about, and we've talked about honeymoon cystitis, we've talked about communication and openness, we've talked about family planning, and in this the next thing we talk about now is counseling. Counseling is very important at every stage of life. The Bible also teaches us that in the midst of many counselors, it's hard to actually, there's no, is unlikely to run into error. So don't ever be tired of getting counsel. That's why they say that when you get married, you need to have mentors. You need to have people, teachers, to guide you, to show you things to do. The same way, the same thing is applied even when it comes to the health sector. Marriage counseling is not only something left to only churches and mosques and other organizations. It's also a medical thing, because marriage is medical. There's a health implication to everyone who gets married. So it's very important to be counseled, because there will be some new things that you are going to be envisaging when you get married that relates to your health. You should not be far from the medical facility. You should not be far from regular health checkups, because your body is changing. Your body is changing. Don't wait until maybe you begin to sense signs of pregnancy. You should learn, you should understand, you should get counsels. Sometimes some people are actually out there sharing wrong counsel, and we are usually frown at these things because the wrong information can kill a lot of people. I've heard counsels from people who say that they can wash their vagina with soap and water. Counsel from people who say they can insert certain things, they can do this and that. It is very, very wrong. So as much as possible, please find the right sources to get the right counsel from. I also want to say this: Google is not a doctor. Google is not your doctor. Google may be your friend, but should not be your doctor. If you want to learn a general thing or read wide about something, yeah, you can go to Google to read. But if you want to diagnose yourself, don't go to Google to diagnose yourself and say, okay, I'm having left stomach pain, write this and that. Google, what is wrong with me? Google will tell you you're about to die in the next 10 days. That's what it will tell you, because the worst things, the most dangerous thing is what it will give you. And you know why? Because it's a marketplace. Google is a market, and so the things that sell more are those things that people are more concerned about. So if Google can get you worried, it will lead you to go and read that article and to lead you to watch the advert they have on that site, and they have made their money from your being worried. So please, Google is not a place for you to go and get the counseling you need. See your medical doctors for proper counseling. Next that we are going to talk about, and this is a very important one, it has to do with regular health visits. Like I said, you see, there are a lot of changes that are occurring in your body from the day you actually got married and you start having sex and start living with the person. The frequency at which you visit the hospital should not should not bother you if you have to. Please, don't think that you don't need to go to the hospital. If you need to, please do. Don't wait until things dilapidate and things worsen before you start going to the hospital. There are a lot of things that can be easily treated or easily counseled about before they get worse. But just because you think, oh, mama this one too had it, nothing do am, mama b had it, nothing do am, me too, nothing go do me. You don't have the same body, you don't have the same immunity, you don't have the same challenges. So as much as possible, don't compare yourselves with another person. It's very, very important that you have a regular visit. Another thing I would like to say here is what we know as health insurance. A lot of families do not have any form of health insurance, and that is very dangerous. In Nigeria that we are today, we know that health is getting very, very expensive. In fact, if you are healthy, you are a wealthy person. If you want to know, go to the hospital and look at how people are groaning in pains. They cannot make money, they cannot go to work. If you are healthy, I'm telling you the truth, you are wealthy, because right now the cost of drugs, the cost of hospital admissions, the cost of even seeing a consultant or having a consult a medical officer is getting really, really exorbitant. So it's very important that you have a plan for a health insurance, so that you will not be caught unawares and then one disease will just collapse all your stored wealth, all your money, and the bank account will be reading negative just because you never planned ahead. If you have a health insurance, by the time a situation happens, there will be a buffer, to absorb it financially, and you can receive the treatment that you need. Don't wait for federal government to promise you free health. Healthcare is not free. Don't wait for them to promise you about what you demand or what your right is. No, that's not going to happen. If you think that you're going to have free health or free this thing, then you probably will get something that is not as optimal. This is why some people even prefer to go to private hospitals than even the federal government owned or public owned hospitals, because they know that they will get something that is much better in there. Well, this is Nigeria, so it's best that you keep your health covered with health insurance. Don't come and start cursing the medical doctors and the nurses and the pharmacists because of the poor health facility. They are not the ones that built the hospital. They are not the ones that created they are not just making the health policies. They are just there to serve you. And so if you know what's best, please plan a health insurance for you and your family. Most hospitals or private or even private institutions also have several health insurance packages for different workers. Please don't frown at any of them. And if you know any other one, maybe the one I had for market women, for all sorts of health insurance are out there. Please attach yourself to one or two if you might, and make some contributions. You may not fall sick and you feel you don't need it. Oh, they fall sick. Oh, you have a good immunity. Oh, this, oh, that. Well, let's hope for the best, but also learn from the ants and save ahead of the rainy days. Now, it's also important that we move ahead to talk about infertility. This is a very huge aspect of this broadcast, And before we go ahead, I'd like us to take a very short break and come back. Get your jotters, get your pen, review what we've been talking about before. If you have any question, please drop them. If you have someone you think should know about what we've been talking about here, please share this video, share the link with them, like, so that it goes viral as much as possible, so that more people will get these gems we are dropping. I'm sure you are getting a lot of value from this talk. So we'll be back shortly after this short break.
Press on my hobby, you say, press on my hobby. I don't need to dull it. When it comes to the praise of the Most High God, I can't resist. Press on my hobby, press on my hobby. I don't need to dull it.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Once again, this is KPM TV Health Talk, and we are talking about health tips for new and intending couples. If you're just joining us, well, you have missed a lot. You have missed a whole lot. So please, you can rewatch this broadcast after, and also follow us along to the end. And also, please share this valuable link to other people, your friends, those who are about to get married, those who are planning, those who want to get married very soon, those who probably are single, those who are newly married. They need this information, right? This is not something you get an everyday basis. What we are sharing here are experiential, they are professional, and they are very key. So as much as possible, stay tuned as we go along. Now, we've been talking about health tips for new and intending couples. We talked about the ones for intending couples. Please, you find that in the replay. And we also talked about some for the new couples. Just a short recap for the new couples. We're talking about autoimmune cystitis, and that it is preventable. We talked about communication and openness in marriage. We also talked about family planning, very, very important. We talked about counsel taking, health seeking behavior of a new couple. It's very, very important. We talked about regular health visits. We talked about having a family health insurance plan. Very, very key. It's so important. And finally, we are about to talk about infertility. A lot of couples have issues pertaining to infertility, and we hope to do a due diligence at discussing this matter within the very short period that we have here in the studio. What is infertility? Infertility is the inability of a couple to conceive despite regular penetrative, ejaculatory, and gratifying sexual activity within a year. Now, from that definition I gave, it is very important to note certain things. That it is the inability of a couple to conceive, not inability to give birth, to conceive. So conception is the key thing to tag someone infertile. So if you have conceived before, you are not infertile. Some people come and say, I've had a child before, I think I have infertility problems. That is not infertility. That's what we call subfertility, because you've had a child before. Infertility starts from the point of conception. Have you conceived before? Yes, that's not infertility. That's subfertility. No, yes, that's infertility. Now, that's one. It says also that they are having frequent frequent, penetrative, gratifying, ejaculatory. So conception, frequency, penetrative, ejaculatory, and gratifying sexual intercourse within 1 year. So if they cannot conceive after 1 year of fulfilling all these requirements, they can be termed to be infertile. Now let's talk about this requirement once again. Number one on the requirement list is frequency. As a new couple, how frequent do you meet yourselves? Some people, they think that after the meet for the first night, the second night, they are tired. Next time they meet will be the next 1 month. For a new couple who is intending to actually begin to have children, it's important that your frequency is at least 4 days in a week. 4 days in a week. Mind you, I did not say 4 times in a week. You can do it 10 times in a day. It only counts for 1 day. For 4 days in out of 7 days of the week, there must be a copulatory activity. That is where you can satisfy frequency. The next aspect of the requirements to fulfill is that it is penetrative, not anal sex, not oral sex, not lap sex, but a penetrative vaginal sex. That is what can that is what can go on to form a baby, to cause conception to occur, right? So we have to rule out that they are frequent and that it is penetrative. We also have to note, like I gave an example previously in the video of the person who was actually having an anal sex and complaining of infertility. No, it has to be that person needed counseling. So if you don't know what you should do, please go for counseling, right? Now, thirdly, on the requirement list for new couples, it's important that your sexual activity should be ejaculatory. Some people actually have an ejaculatory sexual activities. That is to say, there is no ejaculation, there is no semen that comes out, and it's a problem. It's a problem. They will need to see the doctor. They could have one problem or the other, or a blocked tube or something or the other causing it. They need counseling, they need medical attention. So it needs to be ejaculatory as well. Finally, it also needs to be gratifying. It needs to be gratifying, especially for the female gender. If the sex is not gratifying, there is a high tendency that it may not lead to conception. So these 4 requirements are very important for the new couples to note in their new marriage, that they are they need to be responsible for frequency, for penetration, for ejaculation, and then for gratifying. If they can fulfill all of this, the last requirement is that they are doing this thing, fulfilling it for 1 year. If after 1 year that they have been married and they've been fulfilling all of this, then we can then term them to be infertile, and then they can begin medical reviews and treatments where necessary. But if you have not done this for 1 year, maybe your husband does not stay with you in the house for 6 months of the first year, or your husband is a regular traveler and he gets tired, or the wife is a minister of God and she's always fasting, 21 days fasting, 7 days fasting, that has already spoiled our frequency pattern. And these aspects need to be addressed and changes need to be done, because we cannot tell you that you are infertile or begin to carry out medical modalities or surgical reparations because of infertility after you have not actually met those requirements that we talked about. Now we also need to go ahead to talk about something very important. Please, when a child or when the case of infertility occurs in a new marriage, it is not it is not right to label it on the females, on the wife. It is not right. And I'll shock you with an information. Statistics that shows that 30% of the causes of infertility in a marriage are usually caused by the wife. That leaves us with 70%, right? Another 30% is usually caused by the husband. 30-30. That leaves us with what? 40%, right? Now the next 30% are usually due to conditions concerning both of them. Maybe due to ignorance, maybe they don't live together, maybe they are engaged in several other things that causes them not to meet up with their frequency targets. Both of them are all under the next 30% causes why they are infertile, and the last 10% are due to idiopathic reasons, that is reasons that we do not know, that will need to be found out on different observations and different tests, or that may not even be able to be discovered. Now that gives us at least 30, that's 90% of chances of reparation, and chances of them actually getting pregnant. So it is not for anyone to label or accuse the wife and say it is because of you that I'm not having this, it's because of that I'm not having this. Infertility is a condition that does not affect just the wife, it affects the couple, two people. It takes two to tango. So whenever we are dealing with the case of infertility, we need to talk to the two couples. Whenever you are treating a case, you treat both of them. Whenever you are carrying out investigations, you investigate both of them. So it is two people that it takes to actually be infertile. I hope we learned that. Finally, before we move on, a very important thing for the ladies to find out. We would have treated it as one of the requirements, but because it's not part of the definition, we need to actually talk about it, and it has to do with fertile period. Fertile period is a very important aspect of the woman's reproductive health patterns that the woman needs to know. It's the time when the woman is most likely to take in if they have sex. At that time, the eggs of the woman are freshly ovulated. They have been freshly released, and they can easily get fertilized by the sperm. So this period can be calculated. There are a lot of ways to find it, but usually it's actually 2 to 3 days before your ovulation and 4 to 5 days after the ovulation. This gives a window period of at least 7 to 8 days of frequent sexual activity, because this can actually increase the chances of the woman to develop pregnancy and become pregnant, to conceive and become pregnant. So this is a very, very important aspect, because a lot of women do not know their fertile period. They think they just have sex at any time, and they feel that's how they get pregnant. Most people are lucky, but when it comes to those who are actually dealing with this issue, it's important that they know their fertile period. And for you to be able to know it, you need to know your ovulation. You need to know your last menstrual period. So last menstrual period is usually 14 days after your ovulation, depending on your cycle, your menstrual cycle. And when you have calculated it, you know that at least 2 to 3 days before that date of your ovulation to 4 to 5 days after the date of your ovulation, you should increase the frequency of sexual activities. This will help us to actually know for real if there is any problem, or if like we said, it increases the chances of you conceiving and getting pregnant. I hope that we have all learned a lot of things from this brief um, health exposure and explanation and talk, as we have been sharing health tips for both singles and newly married or intending couples. And I believe that we probably have questions, or we have your own views to some of the things we discussed. Please, as much as possible, drop it in the comment section. Also, if you have people who are interested in such a conversation, in such a topic, or who need it, please share it with them so that they can also learn. Remember, health is wealth. Good information saves more lives. Have fun.